Welcome back, everyone. This is Instructor Paige. Today, we're diving into Chapter 3, Intrapersonal Communication. Basically, this is the communication that happens within ourselves. By the end of today, you should be able to define intrapersonal communication, evaluate personality and perception, and how it affects us, and also explore how our dispositions shape the way we communicate and build relationships. Now, with our lecture videos, I cover a very small amount from our textbook. Be sure to read more to help cover more in depth what we're going to talk about today. All right, this is a little bit of communication measures. A lot of times I like students to kind of see how much they communicate. This has been the most popular this year with classes, and I thought I would share that graph to help you see. But this helps see Snapchat versus face-to-face, our text messages, emails, calling people, game time, even TikTok. Now this might change for you, but it's kind of a good way to see how it is as a whole. Now let's start with a quick exercise. Describe yourself in one word. Do you have it? If not, don't be afraid to pause. I want you to really think about that word. Now here's the twist. Would you use that same word if I asked you to tell it to me, your instructor? So would you use the same word to tell it to a stranger, or even a future employer, or maybe even a new boyfriend or girlfriend? Interesting, right? Sometimes we might change those words. If you didn't, good for you. The way we see ourselves can shift depending on context and audience. This connects the ideas to uncertainty reduction and self-disclosure. And of course, how much self-worth we also feel influencing how we present ourselves. Here's another big thing that we will talk about: introvert versus extrovert. Where would you put yourself on the scale? Now, for this, you could see yourself, do you see yourself as more extroverted, as the outgoing, talkative person? Or are you more introverted? You're more shy and reserved. For this exercise, I do have videos you can watch about the differences here, or even in the middle, it's called ambivert, and see where you might be. Now, here's a question: what are the strengths of each of these? Take a minute to write down 2 or 3 of the benefits of being an introvert or the benefits of being an extrovert. Then I dare you to pair up with someone you know and share those things together. What is the benefits of having both within a group project? This is a video I'll share in the class as well. All right, what is intrapersonal communication? Now, interpersonal communication simply means the communication that happens inside us. It's in our thoughts, our reflections, our self-concepts. It's been defined as our beliefs about ourselves, who we are, our attributes, and how we see our identity. This inner dialogue, everything we do externally. So who do you think you are? Back in 1968, when people were asked positive attributes, they listed a certain amount that I'll kind of show here. Would you say these attributes are the same nowadays? Our textbook gives these attributes why they were the quality. It even gives a few of what we have now to see if it differs. Then think, how do these lists impact your self-esteem? How do they influence how you communicate with others? I want you to think about this for a moment, and also think about any attributes you might have personally. What are some that you like, or here are ones that you don't like about yourself? What is ways we can grow in our way of communicating? Now, our view of ourselves breaks down into a few different parts. This first one is self-image. It's how we see ourselves. That would be that one word you put down. Maybe it's a word you see yourself as. Maybe there's a different way that people see you, and maybe it's not communicated. But there's self-image, which is where we need to be conscious of that self-image. It helps you with communicating. Anything negative can impact or reflect of yourself more negatively. More positive self-images can help you think more positive of yourself. So how you feel about yourself does impact communication. The next one is your self-worth. This is the value we place on ourselves. Now, hopefully you know that you are worth a lot. Your self-worth is the degree to which you see yourself as a good person who deserves to be valued and respected. Now, do you value yourself? Do you feel like your self-worth is based on some of these attributes here? Your physical appearance, your social circle, maybe even your age? All of these can change as we grow to our ideal self. This would be the version of yourself that you would like to be. For example, as kids, we often had dreams of what we wanted to be when we grew up. Sometimes that ideal self and real self really aligned, and that's when we felt balanced, or maybe there was a gap, there was a confusion, there was self-doubt of who your ideal self would be. So experiences can change our ideal self, who we want to be. Cultural demands can change that, and even the expectations of others. And the last one here is the real self. This is the person you truly are. Do you feel like your ideal self and real self are similar? Can your ideal self evolve? Can this change with time? Now, this is very introspective. This is all about you and how you view yourself and how this can impact your communication. So the three here I really want you to focus on is your self-image, how you view yourself, your self-worth, the value you place upon yourself, and also the ideal self, the person you would like to be. Maybe that's why you're taking this class, is your ideal self is to better your communication. Or maybe your ideal self is to finish a class and reach a really good grade. That's why we need to really look through the class, think about good things, and have that self-compassion. Now here's a good quote from our chapter 3, where our communication with others impacts our self-esteem, and our self-esteem and then impacts our communication with others. This is very briefly, this is something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This will basically, you have a pyramid of needs that you need. So if you're talking to someone and they haven't had food or they haven't had a good night's sleep, it will definitely impact their connection to you and being able to communicate fully. Now, to give you a little bit more, I'm going to include a video on this in our class that helps save some time for this lecture, but this is something you really need to think about, is if you're talking to someone, are all of these needs met? Are they able to reach the top of the pyramid? Or are they having some struggles that makes it harder to reach that love and belonging stage? Now here's the fun thing that we're going to talk about as well. Our textbook also talks a lot about our personality. This is our combination of traits or qualities that make a person unique. Now this has what they call a big five, but our textbook helps break it down in the ocean model as well. It's both pretty much the same, but the big five here, the first one is surgency. That's basically if you're extroverted versus introverted. The second one would be agreeableness. Are you good-natured or are you more spiteful? That means if something happens to you, do you hold on to it or are you more forgiving? The third one is dependability. That's being conscious of other people's needs. Now, a lot of times this isn't conscious. We just know we don't catch someone else needing something. So this is more about catching that nonverbal communication. Are you good at catching those needs, or is it something you struggle with? The fourth one is emotional stability. Are you more of an anxious person who worries or overthinks your words? Or the opposite would be more placid. You kind of say it comes as it comes, it goes as it goes. And the last one our books calls culture, but I like Ocean's model saying openness. This basically means that you're open to new interactions, that you want to try something new, or are you more closed off? You want to do something you're already familiar with. You feel more at ease with something like that. Now with these top five here, or the big five as it's called in communication, this is the 5 things we start to study in other people to see how we communicate with them. We catch if they're extroverted versus introverted. Like, are we going to invite them out or are we going to stay in? Are we someone who worries a lot and needs reassurance? Is it someone who likes to do the same thing over and over or not? Knowing these top 5 can really help you study yourself, but also study others. Now I know we're going quickly here, but our next part in our textbook goes pretty deep into nature versus nurture. In our textbook, it gives a lot of details about research on twins. It's a classic nature versus nurture study, but basically it's good to know someone's background, to understand how to communicate with them. So no matter what their nature versus nurture is, it's getting to know someone that really helps. So it gets to know their temperament, their personality that we're studying, and how to communicate with them. So yes, I am going to briefly, we'll see it, but we're not going to fully study it today. This is something I would dive deeper into your textbook to see what it's about and if you're interested in, but it's definitely more on the psychology side. Other personality and traits, it goes a lot deeper basically in our textbook about that. If that's something you're really interested in, I'd say go for it. I also have a personality test you can take to help see where your personality is in the Big Five, and it's something fun to kind of study. The last big part here for our textbook, sorry, it likes to do that, is emotional intelligence. This is the ability to recognize, manage, and use emotions in a way that improves our communication and relationships. People with a high emotional intelligence or EQ tend to connect more effectively with others. This is something we'll explore later with more examples and think about how it shows up in our daily interactions. This is more, it talks about the 4 different levels. In our textbook, it goes into a lot more detail of Mayer's emotional intelligence models. And basically, our book talks a lot about emotional loneliness, social loneliness, how that impacts our self-esteem. Basically, our intrapersonal world also affects how we relate to others. Something to study is the attachment theory, for instance, suggests that our early relationships shape how we're secure, anxious, avoidant we are in adult relationships. We look at real-world examples, and we look at the attachment theory and even Horney's rejection sensitivity theory to better understand how early experiences in our adult communication and our connection. Now with this, the book does talk a lot about a story or a case study about John. It's about his early life, how it formed, and how he really struggled with the long-lasting relationships. And this is good to look at how we can find the things on personality. How does this relate to stuff in our everyday life? We look at this to see how does intrapersonal communication, the way he sees himself, connect to the way he communicates with other people. So thinking about that, we get a little bit deeper. We have the wider idea of how someone is and why they might struggle with communication, or even why ourselves struggle with that communication. So this is something that we just, basically it's a self-monitoring. We really want to think about our intrapersonal communication, be kind to ourselves, think about our self-image, our everything like that. And this is just very briefly our chapter 3. To wrap up today, interpersonal communication is how we talk about ourselves and how it impacts our self-esteem, how this can impact your personality, and how we connect with others. Now this week, I really want you to reflect on your own personality, take that personality quiz, and think about whether you feel it's accurate, or do you feel like it's not accurate? And it's okay to question things like that. This book is basically studying. It's not something that's going to be the same for everyone. Then lastly, consider how do your traits and your self-concept affect the way you communicate with others. I look forward to get to knowing all of you this week.